Welcome back to the Atlantic Construction Podcast. Today we have with us Cory Wensley. Cory's the Director of Sales and Marketing with the big news on the block for glazing contractors here in Atlantic, Canada. Fabtek Atlantic Limited is a new manufacturer of aluminum and glazing products located here in Dartmouth. Cory Wensley moved to Nova Scotia from Sault Ste. Marie in 2008. Attended St. FX University for Bachelor of Business, or is it Bachelor of Arts? Did I get that wrong?
Yeah, that's all right.
I was paying attention to the 4 years of football that you played at St. FX. Let's open up with that. Tell us a little bit about your football experience at St. FX. You were QB?
Yep. So I played quarterback there. When I was leaving Sault Ste. Marie, there was one of the football players that used to play at St. FX, came down to the Soo. He was from the Soo, and he was just put a list together. Sure enough, myself and a few other guys were on it, so they had a recruiter come down. My brother was on it too, so my brother came out to St. FX for a few years with me as well.
Nice.
They just did a little bit of a recruit. I went down there, spent one weekend there on a recruit trip, and I was like, I'm coming to St. FX. Like, there's no way I'm not coming. So I basically signed that next week, and then so I'm excited to.
What was your MO as a QB? Were you throwing the ball long? Were you short throws?
Yeah,
were you a runner? What were you?
I throw the ball long. Yeah,
Nice.
I'm not. I wasn't the quick movement guy, but yeah.
Like I said before that we started, we could talk about football all day, but we'll jump into to some of your experience. I know you worked in the glazing community for the last few years here locally, and you've got some mention of some courses and professional development you did at some different institutions. We always like to mention any of our guests that have been on, if they've took some courses at Dalhousie or with Cans. Maybe you could just tell us about those courses that you took and what the experience was like for any young listeners who are thinking about.
So when I started working, I was fortunate enough to get on with Lumicore, and they were really helpful with the mentorship aspect of it. So in addition to learning kind of the ins and outs of the company, I got to take a lot of professional development courses, and that was kind of one of my focuses, and still is to this day. I really am. That's something I'm passionate about. Always staying relevant and up to date on certain things, and so I got to take principles of construction documentation, a couple courses through SAIT.
Southern Alberta Institute of Technology.
Southern Alberta. Yep. And so I was fortunate to do that, and then supplement that with a technical rep course through CSC, and then I actually took another project management course just to better understand some of the higher level design side of things. So I've been very fortunate, had some good mentors throughout the years, and they've coached me up, and now here I'm with Fabtek.
Yeah, it's always nice to see these large companies like giving back to the employees, like with training and development, and having their employees take courses and stuff. I almost feel like if you don't take a course or two a year, you're just going to fall behind in how fast technology is moving and stuff like that. But especially probably more so for the glazing industry specifically, as a project manager, your role with Lumicore previously, it's such a so many parts, and the specs are so heavy. It's all kinds of stuff going on. So I assume that it's even more necessary for. And
it totally is, because you got to, as a young person coming in, you do have to learn those things. You have to know how to sift through those specs and the drawings and find what's relevant and applicable to you. And if you are in the coding process and the estimating process, to be able to do that quickly and efficiently. I mean, yes, it ends up being kind of an everyday thing at some point, but as a younger person coming up, it's like, it can be daunting. Like, I can't find this. I don't know what this is. I don't know what these section details are. I don't know anything like that. So another one I got to take through Construction Association of Nova Scotia was a blueprint reading course. Pretty straightforward. Just these are the ins and outs of what the drawings are. This is what this means, and that kind of got my feet wet with understanding. But it's all to help supplement you in your work and in your career. It's like you're going to see these drawings every day in your job, but it's learning that foundational kind of stuff.
Reading blueprints and specs and all these different, they're all just tools you can have kind of in your repertoire when you're dealing with putting out fires and stuff. Like then you got to know the products, and then you got to know
products.
who the manufacturer is and what product you're using for this spec of
Comparable
glass.
products, your competitors at the time,
Alternates.
with Alumacor, you would have to find you would have somebody kind of chatting about, what's an equivalent to a Conair product, or what's an equivalent to, is it an Anatech product, like what are they? And so you have to know those competitors' comparable products, so that if you are in a spec and you got to call an architect or a designer to get your equivalent approved, you got to be able to do that. And you might see 5, 10, 15 types of drawings, a week or maybe more. Or depends on your workload. But yeah.
And a set of specs to go with it.
And a set of specs with
it's
800
easy to
pages.
get them confused, right?
Yeah. There's a lot going on with it.
One's bleeding into the other.
Yeah.
So let's talk. Let's open up and talk about Fabtek Atlantic Limited and the big news on the block with Alumacor closing their doors. In the past few months, maybe officially today. Is that
our president and the ops team decided, okay, well, this is big news. What are we going to do? Are we going to take this and run with this, this opportunity? And sure enough, they did. And so the team at Alumacor, for the most part, a lot of the fabrication team, a lot of the operations manager is now our president. So he took that and said, okay, let's go with it, and let's try to get this opportunity running, and hopefully it'll work. And sure enough, it has been working, and we've been seeing it kind of exploding a little bit more than we anticipated. So we're in the planning stages now. We are up and running at 191 Joe Zatzman, and so we're adding more people as we go. We're potentially adding drafters, but we are offering an amount of services that are going to almost step in the sense of how Alumacor was doing it. So we're going to be able to work with you on the design side, make sure your loading calcs are right, and then get you engineer shop drawings, everything stamped, and all that. And all the while, we have a veteran inside sales upfront team, an estimating team that really knows the ins and outs of that as well. So we are very fortunate to take the Alumacor team, and it's nothing against that supplier's next step plan in their business model. It's just now we're filling the gap with it.
Yeah, well, let's clarify that. Like Alumacor is, multinational.
Yeah.
They've got a certain business model as a wholesale supplier of aluminum glass products, and they're just this region for them is it's just not
the region for them. They decided that fabrication in this area isn't just not going to be part of their model in Dartmouth. So what they did was, they pulled out, and now their model is going to change, and it's going to be more on the side of, you get your stock lengths, you get your doors and your vents, and then you order, and you have somebody fabricate for it. So when that memo went out and the glazing industry kind of got word of that, a lot of them were like, okay, well, what do we do? Do we decide to add our own fabrication line in our plants if we have the room? We're going to fill that gap a little bit and hopefully, replace some of that business that Alumacor pulled out of.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, just for context for our listeners, is that we're not bashing Alumacor. Like, you guys will buy stock product from them at Fabtek.
Oh, 100%.
When you need to, they'll be a supplier. You'll be doing business with them.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We just understood it as that model just doesn't work for them right now. It doesn't work for them, going forward in the future. So we still want to be partners. The industry is small, and they have a great product. So that's not, it's not knocking them at all. It's just things change, and that's the developments that are happening in the industry, especially out east.
Yeah. I mean, this is a really neat story, and it's perfect, I think, for Atlantic Construction podcast, and our show is kind of like, shedding light on passionate organizations and people and telling stories, increasing your reach, and the fact that, for any entrepreneurs listening, and you guys were able to jump on an opportunity 3 months ago that really wasn't public information until then, and then to capitalize on it that quick, and get the team together, and just the way everything came together, which I'm sure you'll talk about more. It's really neat story. So I'm glad you're here on here.
It was quite fast moving, and it still is fast moving. Like, we are, we have our location. We're fabricating right now, and we're in the process of even like getting our offices up and running too. Like, but we are on the operation side, all running, all good to go. So Zatzman's just going to be a little bit of a process for the next few weeks to just finalize some of the front end stuff. Yeah. But all the fabrication is ready to go. All of the operation side, you can call, you can get quotes, you can do all those things. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, before we drill into some of the details on that front, I know there's probably a lot of subcontractors listening in the glazing industry, or hopefully for both of our sake. And they're hearing that Alumacor is closing their doors. What's that mean to them? It means like, okay, well, who are we going to buy who are we going to do business with as a supplier who we can send specs and pricing to? They can provide us with, shop drawings and manufacture these storefronts and curtain walls and all the stuff that we need to install.
Yeah.
So they're listening and hearing that, okay, Fabtek is the, people we can reach out to now.
That's essentially it. So we took that and we decided to run with that similar model, be able to come to us in the same way as that one-stop shop for your fabricated curtain wall and your doors and entrances and all that stuff. And we want to mimic that model as best we can because we know how valuable it was to those glazers. Like when I'm speaking to some glazing contractors, I was like, well, what are you doing now? Like, what are you going to do with your install team? Are they gonna start fabricating, or what's gonna happen? Or are you gonna add bodies? Well, they're not sure. Some of them aren't sure. Some of them are like, well, no, we're just gonna have to outsource and go find another one, another fabrication team. So that's where we were, after having these chats with more and more glazing contractors throughout those months. It's like, okay, yeah, this is gonna work, and it is working, and it's just a matter of now shifting that clientele from Alumacor that was on the fabrication side to Fabtek.
So these contractors that are local to HRM in Dartmouth, Bedford, anywhere in Nova Scotia, they're aware of Fabtek, and they're kind of been talking to you guys, and they just to be sure that they're going to be able to deal with someone for supplier purposes. But are you guys going to supply to New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Prince Edward Islands?
Yes. Yeah.
And then anywhere west as well?
So we are going to focus on Eastern Canada right now.
Including Montreal?
Including, Quebec. We're going to work on and develop that part of the market. But being kind of situated in Dartmouth and having connections now and old glazer contractors that we did work with in the past at Alumacor and just kind of rekindling that. There are a lot of opportunities in Newfoundland. There are a lot of opportunities in PEI and New Brunswick. You got your O'Connor Glass and PEI. You got your Marklands here. You got your GSIs. You got your Atlantic Windows, your Royal Doors. Even in Newfoundland, on either end of the spectrum, you got Penmar Trades in Cornerbrook, and then you got Complete Glazing and Coastal Building Products in St. John's, and a few other ones too, like Hampton Building Systems has come along. I believe they purchased Geo Glass back a few years back. So there's even been transitions with the glazing community and who's who and who are the big players now, and even the small to medium size companies. Right now, there are developments in their teams growing, and they're making moves to take on more large jobs. Some are happy where they're at, and so we're looking to fill the gap with all those levels of fabrication needs. Small storefront curtain walls, stuff like that, and then big projects that you see around here.
So for anyone listening that maybe hasn't talked to you guys or maybe doesn't or hasn't been in touch with some of the guys from Alumacor who are now at the helm of Fabtek, who've moved over, do you want to mention a name or two of some of the individuals that are kind of leading the way with Fabtek, just so our listeners know maybe it's a person they dealt with in the past and they're like, somebody they want to deal with again? Yeah,
so currently Vince Lemieux is our president. He was the operations manager over at Alumacor. So he ran all the lean manufacturing operations, is very focused on lean processes and quite knowledgeable with that and intelligent with that. And some of the other ones, we have longstanding fabrication team. I'm not sure if anyone will know them publicly, but like Steve Redmond was one of our longstanding guys. Dwayne Stewart's one of them that was basically on the planning side.
The glazing community on the ground
They would
knows these guys.
Yeah, they would know them for
stuff.
sure. Yeah. So there's a few of those guys, and we're currently looking to add to the team, and so you might see another one or two that we might know, but those are a few, for sure, that are on the team.
And who's your competition? I think you might have named a few of them already, but
yep. So Anatech is a fabricator, product supply. They do extrusions as well, so they're a little bit different. You got your even MGM automated doors out. Division 8 as well. South Shore Glass, yeah, they do some fabrication as well. Some companies do fabricate only with certain products too. So the competition is varied. Depends on that company's business model and who their supplier is and all those things. So it does ebb and flow with the amount of competition, let's call it, the competitive level. But yeah, so those are some of the competitors that we
Silicers and PEI.
Silicers and PEI, yeah. So they do. They would be more on the doors and entrances side,
right?
A little bit smaller fabrication, but yes, like definitely a competitor of ours, and they work heavily, I believe, with Connier products and maybe a few others too. But yeah.
So tell us about the shop. Like, how many square feet is this shop in Dartmouth? And I think you were saying earlier that basically, I've got this from the guys that came over from Illumicor, and a lot of the gear made its way over to your way too. So.
Yeah. So we were fortunate enough to transition pretty much everything out of the shop that was at Gloria McCluskey. I think it's a new name now, to be honest, since I haven't gone up that road in a while, but I believe it's Gloria McCluskey. Yeah, something like that. But anyway, so we were fortunate enough to transition all the equipment, everything that was in there for the most part, give or take some other items, even a lot of the office supply stuff. We transitioned over to Fabtek. It's been very beneficial for Fabtek because we didn't really have to go out and outsource any equipment, anything like that, only a few minor things. So it really allowed us to get up to speed and up and running very fast. And so, the space over there is just over 10,000 square feet. And with potential to grow if we do decide that it's justifiable. So everything came over. It's been pretty seamless that way. Like everything's gone smooth. Let's say.
Almost turnkey.
Yeah, just need to put a different sign on the.
Just a different sign on the door.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And so, like, who will be, or who do you hope to be some of your bigger clients? In the coming years, like some of the local contractors. Obviously, there's Flynn. And a dozen others. Yeah.
So Flynn, yes, is one of them. You got the bigger project focused ones in Markland would be a great client of ours. Even in PEI, there's O'Connor Glass is also a big potential contact there as well. Royal Door is one out of New Brunswick too that we're gonna potentially work with at some point if we're just in the process of adding clientele to the business and getting the word out of Fabtek. So around here, KP Glass is another great glazing contractor. Pictou County Glass. There's a few other ones like Halifax Glass too, and some of these companies too. They do, even companies that do have some fabrication.
That's what I was going to ask next. Like, so for context, are all of these potential clients of yours install only, and they're not? Some of them can fabricate themselves.
Yeah, and some of them have had to, and so some of them will handle some minor stuff.
So just like you're talking just milling of like the aluminum in the shop, or like
actually like putting the entrances together, fabricating. Right. So they're gonna still order their lengths from a supplier, and then they're gonna fabricate. But when we get involved into like big curtain wall projects, that's where you need,
can't just set up in your shop. It
can be a little difficult, and even understanding on the front end, because a lot of the stuff for the big curtain wall projects, you have to know your anchoring, you have to know all those things, and you have to prep that inside. You also have to know on the front end, the loading calcs. You have to have an appropriate sized, even back section for a curtain wall to go in. You have to know the wind load and dead load calcs, so that if you do need to have structural steel reinforcing up the mullion of one of the posts, and know where to anchor and how to anchor, we have that ability. So when you get mixed in with a big project like that, we feel like, yes, we're going to be able to have that edge in the market because we have that veteran team, because we have those services. And so some fabricate small doors, small entrances, and buy their doors from a supplier. Others will get involved in a large project and maybe call us. It just really depends on their scope and what they like to take on and the risk they like to take on. Yeah. And we're just here to help, really.
You mentioned large projects, and like in your time with Illumicor and dealing with some of their big clients here, like is there one or two or three large projects that you kind of were involved in on the back end a little bit around the city here or somewhere else in Atlantic Canada?
Yeah. So a little back and forth one would have been Brenton Place with Illumitech. I was here for that one. There's a lot of the dealerships. So Alvin Co. Pramod Jolly runs that company, and he does a lot of the big dealerships around here too.
Right, the big car dealerships that always have a heavy glazing spec.
Yeah, heavy glazing, lots of that stuff. So those are two of them too. And then I was fortunate to, when I came on with Illumicor, I was fortunate to be part of the process for the core science at MUN in St. John's. Okay. So it wasn't one of my clients, but it was Illumicor, and so I got to go see the process there and all the development of seeing the glazing go on and all that. So that was very, very fun to see. And even in Newfoundland, like Corner Brook Acute Care Center with the window shop / coastal building products. They've done some pretty substantial work there, and do, I think, have some big stuff lined up too. So yeah, there's definitely a lot.
Take us through like a couple of these jobs, and just for our listeners maybe who are outside the glazing industry, just to give them some understanding of like how intense, how many different parts go into, like, say, like a storefront or a curtain wall on one of these large car dealerships that you drive by here in the north end of Halifax or something. I mean, you got low E, 1 inch thick curtain wall. Some of it's tempered, some of it's opaque. It's not see-through. Some of it's designed for wind load. Then you have all the aluminum specs and the spacers and blocking and rubber components and thresholds.
There are a lot of components. Even so, with Illumicor at the time too, and even with Fabtek, we don't get involved with too much of the glass, but we have to understand that component of building the aluminum framing. But yeah, there's a lot of moving parts when you're talking curtain wall and when you're talking even storefront. There's, every part and piece has its own function. You have to have your glazing rubber appropriate. You have to have we have a lot of quality control in our plant. And the reason why is because you can't have gaps in certain framing. You can't have those things, because then it just compromises the quality of the product, just essentially. But when we're talking moving parts or even parts and pieces in a curtain wall frame, there's so many that are incorporated into it. But so. Yeah,
I was thinking of other trades that are heavy on the prefab side, like structural steel and millwork could be another one, and this is in the same ballpark where like it's heavier on the prefab end, and then obviously the installers are extremely talented on the site. But
and even if they want something fully fabbed, or if they even want it knocked down and like in parts and pieces, so that they can install it when they go to site. So there's a lot of even options when they're chatting with us, and how we even bundle, and even from start to finish product ordering the amount of product per phase of a project too, and making sure that lead time for the product is going to be adequate for having it come into the shop, be able to fabricate, ship it out, or get it picked up. All those things, it all stems from having good processes in place from start to finish, from estimating into your order entry, into your purchase order processes, and then into the operations side. All the scheduling, all those things, it really is essential when you're getting involved in that.
Yeah, all your guys, like, not to cut you off, but all your guys that came from Alumacor, it's like all of a sudden you have this new company with like
Yeah.
10 people with 20 years experience in the same
It's
new
so
company.
great. Yeah, it's so great. And so to have that kind of add on to not only software, it's like we have the people to double check these things and really do great quality control when it comes to, you know, making sure even our order packages are correct. Because if one or two things don't go right in that, you know, you could be, you know, halting somebody on site because you have to order another extrusion or something like that. And
Right.
like, so it's really important that those processes are in place and run efficiently. And then then basically it's just fab time, and then everyone's just going hard at it.
Well, take us through like a scenario. Like, let's say, you know, if there's a new dealership going up, or a large storefront job, or another, not another Nova Center, but something similar where there's just all kinds of glazing on the exterior. And if a contractor is awarded the job and they want to use you guys to fab and as a supplier, whether it's Flynn or Halifax Glass or Cape Breton Glass or any of these subcontractors, like, what's the process like? Are you ordering the raw materials for aluminum, you get to the shop, and then you go through the glass spec and that comes in, you kind of arrange things in the shop there, like just to kind of give context to how it works.
Right. So normally when we're getting involved in, normally, you get your average, you get your bids and you get your quotes out, and, you might have a couple clients like asking for the same project at some point. So during that time, and the unique thing, I guess, as an aside from that with Fabtek, is we aren't necessarily one product driven, right? One supplier driven. So we have to understand competition and understand equivalence with a whole different set of products.
Right, because you're fabricating for the installer who's been awarded the supply and install.
They could have been ordered a WinSpec product. They could have been ordered,
all the more reason for your experienced employees and knowing alternates and knowing
how to
solve problems like that.
Yeah. So basically, we would have them reach out, and depending on the part of the process, we may get involved at an earlier stage to make sure that before they do the specs, they may just have to have the right wind load and dead load calcs, right, appropriate back sections, whatever product they want to go with. Right. That's fine, but that might be a first step. But then the bids come in, and then we may have to go back and forth with that client to, if we go internally and say, oh, is this actually an adequate back section, or is this frame too big? Are we going to have to add steel and stuff like that? So that's another part of it in the upfront stages.
And they got to know that, prior to the closing date.
And what's crazy too is that's why we're offering that service, is because what we're seeing now with a lot of private development is that demand put on some of the glazing contractors is like, it's like, okay, well, we need you to do this, or we need you to package this, and it some of them are set up, some of them can do it just great. Others do need some of that.
Some of them can do it just great for the smaller scale jobs.
Exactly.
When it comes to something more mid-range or large job, that they're not set up for that. And you're not just a fabrication company. You're more at that stage. You're like a fab consultant that can tell them, hey, this is what you need to allow for this.
And that's going to allow us also to just quote an appropriate product, so that we're not going back and forth. So, and there are tweaks when you get involved with that and trying to find out what's most cost effective, or what some kind of alternate solutions are and stuff like that. Some people would rather go with a larger back section than they would just throwing steel in it inside of a mullion. But it all depends on the client too, and what they want. When we get involved on some of the design side, when there's a little less information, and that's what I was kind of getting at, was like, that's where you get involved with, okay, we're going to need confirmed sizes once we run with it and start fabricating. Mm-hmm. So those confirmed sizes may come right away. They may come a little bit later, but the essential thing is having that in line with the appropriate product, with the appropriate even colors and finish, type 1, type 2. Mm-hmm. If you want something outdoor, you're typically going 0007. It's a little bit more robust thickness when you're talking anodizing thickness. Mm-hmm. But right now with supply chains, sometimes you go with what you can get. and 0004 is just another mill thickness or anodizing thickness that you can offer. So so just to make sure that all the components are packaged together, and then we'll provide shop drawings that are accurate to those dimensions, and then we kind of run with that, and we can get them stamped too for our clients.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, for the process, like, are you, is that glass product, whatever it might be, whether it's a curtain wall or storefront, whatever the thickness is, like, is that glass product at your shop while you're milling everything and you're kind of piecing things together, or does that happen in a separate process?
Right. Yeah, so that would be separate for us. That would be we would build the frames and get them out, and then I suppose the glazer would just coordinate the glass ordering. But for the most part,
so that's happening on the site while it's getting installed.
Yeah, or maybe in their shops.
Right.
They might just package them together and do that internally. But yeah, so they would come to us, we'd fab, and then we'd get them the frames.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to understanding the process a little bit, so you're not dealing with the actual glass product in your shop. It's the aluminum component, but obviously you still have to know all the details and thicknesses and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So we definitely we come across those in the spec and what type of glass is needed, but often, so often we would be working with something like a 1-inch IGU in a curtain wall system. And our client will let us know what glass sometimes they're going to be using, if there's anything kind of quirky about it or the thicknesses are different. But for the most part, it's pretty standard for us for fabrication purposes, I guess.
And then, what about like blocks and the rubber components and stuff like that too? Those are accessories that are separate with the glass and the aluminum. So many different components.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So so there's a lot of components even for the glazing, but that prime seal with the glazing rubber, we do provide that. So if you're ordering a curtain wall system, all the glazing rubber for you to glaze is going to be included.
Right.
And that's kind of, that is essential, but, it is kind of that prime seal that's going to allow for no water to get, penetrate in.
Yeah.
But also you're talking pressure plate that's going to secure everything in, your caps. There's a whole bunch. Your
So
pocket
many
filler for your,
accessories,
there's a lot of little things that when you're looking at the system itself, a lot of people may not even really know how many little components there are.
Well, I think that's what makes it so hard to, obviously, the fabrication of it is a really intense process, but it makes it a hard scope to estimate too if you don't have a background in it, because there's so many different parts.
And you got to know, the estimating side, like your feet of rubber, how much cap, how much pressure plate you're going to need, how many screws per joint we're going to be needing, and also, how many minutes does it take to fab that joint? Like, that's another thing too, is really working to be efficient, because your fabrication number and how much you allot your labor times to, that's going to allow you to be competitive in the market. Whether you're getting a product from, XYZ supplier, your internal processes and your overhead and your fabrication, like price and cost, is going to allow you to be competitive. It's going to really allow you to work with your client, because a product is going to have its price. It may go up and down, likely up, but it's we want to work internally sometimes with that fab number. Yeah.
And so if you're designing a curtain wall or a storefront, and there's 3 to 6 sets of double exterior doors, for example, obviously the hardware's got to be ordered as a separate item, but are you guys involved in fabbing those doors as well as the curtain wall itself?
Not yet. That is something we are set up internally for. But we're gonna work at that, right, as it's basically as we speak right now. So there may be some options down the road, but right now, currently, we're working with some suppliers to be able to do that. The suppliers that we're working with now actually don't offer that. Like if we're working with an Alumicore product, you actually have to order your doors and vents from them. But that's not to say that other suppliers won't sell us lengths of door material and go from there. But another part of it too is, if we're talking doors, hardware is a crazy. There's so much going on with hardware, and to know the compatibilities, we have somebody internally that's really worked with a lot of door hardware in the past and currently. So there's a lot of compatibility potential issues when you're trying to put certain hardware into a door, and to know how to prep that and how to cut that right and accurate is
Maybe a Chinese clockmaker.
Oh, it's crazy. It is insane. It's a little bit crazy. So we're fortunate to have somebody internally that really knows the ins and outs of that. But there is just standard hardware that we do package for our client. So if they're looking for like a standard, 100-day door from Alumacor or something, we're going to get them that standard hardware. But if they want to go with like a Rolls Royce style, like Von Duprin type hardware, they might have to supply it, from an outside source, and then just have us as almost a consultant to say, okay, this is going to work or this is not going to work.
Right.
You might have to switch out a couple components, but yeah.
So what about supply chain? Like for you guys, your suppliers that you'll be dealing with, and then what's the current state like right now for lead times?
Lead times, for a lot of people, for a lot of people, the lead times aren't great. We're working with a few suppliers right now, and it looks like our lead times are actually going to be quite good. And by good, I mean it's going to be back to getting things in an adequate time period. And we're working with some of those lead times. It all depends on how much you're ordering and what you're ordering and what inventory you may want to have. And that's something that we're considering too, is having an inventory stock. And just working with some of those suppliers for any potential that way. But it's because this company is fast moving, we're adding things basically as we speak. Right. And we're working with a lot of clients, suppliers, other organizations to really get everything in line with that. But yeah, so lead times should be quite good. I would have to say. So give us a call and we'll let you know how quickly we can get you something for sure.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned your design assistants and engineering shop drawings and stuff. So obviously you're servicing these contractors on small, medium, large size jobs that have no fabrication element to them if they're your client, but also the ones that do fab a little bit themselves. You guys kind of can go above and beyond with providing shop drawings.
Yeah,
your in-house CAD techs and different things like that.
Yeah, so we have that ability because we saw the importance of that component for our glazing contractor clients. Like, so when they get involved in those bigger projects, it's almost like a team effort, and working through those initial design stages, because with the private development, some of the processes are a little bit just, they're not all over the place. They're just different. So we might get someone reaching out, asking for a quote or asking for certain elements of what's appropriate curtain wall sizing that we need.
Well, there's not always an architect involved. It's private development. Sometimes there is, but it's not like public tenders usually are more structured.
Yeah, so it's a little different. And because we're seeing so much of that around here, there's just a lot more.
So that's a real niche for you guys.
Yeah, so that's a little bit more of a niche. And so we're providing that now, and then we can get your shops too when you need them, and that's more or less more standard practice, especially when we're mimicking something like an Alumacor type model. So yeah.
So any current projects? Like I know you guys, you just opened your doors. Maybe not. Maybe you want to mention a few that you're starting to work on, or maybe just what ones. Where's your bread and butter? Is it the storefront? Is it retail? Is it multi-unit? Is it?
So we're currently working for all of those sectors, or we're looking into being able to provide fabricated product for all of those sectors. So that is your storefronts, your quick transaction type things, your storefronts, your busted doors, and somebody backed into like a Starbucks or something, and you need that fixed. So we're definitely set up to have that quick transaction type fabrication, but we're also looking to and we already have started with clients and started working with clients on some longer phased out type projects, and so those are in the works right now. And I did get a couple notifications today and some feedback on some of the projects we might be involved in. So I'll keep you in the loop and we'll go from there. But anything from commercial, institutional, you're throwing something in an industrial building or something like that too. Yeah. We're going to be focusing on everything.
Anyone reaching out from any other provinces yet, or anything in the works there for mostly local right now in Nova Scotia?
Local right now. There is some potential in Newfoundland actually right now that we're just waiting on. I know, and everything is in that kind of, let's call it design phase or that quoting phase. So we're working with our clients to get them appropriate quotes and accurate quotes, and then they're going to their clients and so, but there are some good positive,
seeds planted.
Positive
New
seeds.
Brunswick's busy right now too.
New Brunswick's busy.
Over there.
Yes. So that is,
PI too. PI is crazy.
PI is, and O'Connor Glass does a lot of work there, and they've been there for a lot of years. So that's another client that we're hoping to work more with and with in general. So there's, and that's kind of my role too. So I'm going to be I'm going to be doing that.
Streets.
Yeah, I'm going to be hitting the streets basically.
Well, travel's opened up. For the most part.
Yeah, and I'm excited for that. And so, I'll be getting up to Newfoundland. I'll be going to PEI. I'll be going to New Brunswick and just staying locally around here too. And lots of opportunity.
Montreal's kind of in the plan as well when the time is right.
Yes, Montreal is definitely in the plan too, and we're just kind of working at that. And as the team grows, there's going to be more focus on other provinces for sure.
How many team members now? 12, 13?
There'd be just about 12 now. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, this is it's a great story. It's current news, and it's big news in the contracting industry, right? Every commercial building has a glazing element. Some of them, it's maybe the biggest element and one of the most expensive.
People like glass, it's great.
You gotta have it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of opportunity, especially around here. But just in Atlantic Canada in general. So we're excited about the future, and I'm excited to see where Fabtek goes.
Awesome, man. Well, it's exciting news, and thanks for coming on here and doing this and allowing us to showcase all the great things that Fabtek is doing. Hopefully, the community that's tuning in, it helps get some exposure and kind of slingshot you guys into the into 2022. And who's your Super Bowl pick this year? A little too early to tell.
Maybe a little early.
That's putting you on the spot, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll see. I'll hold off on that.
You got a team?
I used to have teams, but now I'm, I'm kind of just like, I like that player.
Game,
like,
right?
I'll watch every once in a while.
Nice, relax on the couch.
Well, my wife and I just had our first baby, so
nice. Congrats. Boy or girl?
Boy, yeah. Nice. So he's just over a month now.
Wow.
So
he got a football in his hands yet?
He will at some point. Yeah, probably. We'll see though. We'll see.
Well, that's great, man. Yeah. Well, congrats on that. And
thank you.
Any closing words or?
I mean, just to go over, Fabtek, we're at 191 Joe Zatzman. If you have any questions about architectural aluminum fabrication and need any assistance with that, we're more than happy to have a chat and have a discussion about it. We're really excited about the future, and we see the opportunity in the glazing contractor industry with those potential new clients. So. Yeah, just excited.
Awesome, man. And we'll post your website with all the contact info if people want to reach out. When we do release the episode. And thanks again, man.
Yeah, this has been pleasure. Great. Yeah, I've been enjoying it. Yeah, thanks so much.
Cheers. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Atlantic Construction Podcast. Be sure to follow us on any podcast platform you use. You can also find us on LinkedIn and Instagram at Atlantic Construction Podcast. Be sure to send us a comment or a review. We'd love to engage with you.